Saturday evening. Welcome to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini, your host, along with Stephen Matthews, Mr. Page Publishing, right here in New York City. We are right here for you every single Saturday night on 710 WOR, and we have a great show in store for you tonight. As you know, we're here to give you insight into how the publishing industry works, the steps you have to take to get your book published, how it gets from your fingertips to the publisher, the editor, then packaged, promoted, and publicized, how to get it for sale on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But the best part of the show, in my humble opinion, is hearing from these authors, first-time authors, people just like you who never thought in their wildest dreams it would be possible to get their blood, sweat, and tears in their hands, in print, and available for all the world to read. But before we get started, I have a question for you, Stephen. The editing process. Exactly how does that work? You get a manuscript, right, from an author, you decide you're going to publish it, and then what?
Well, the book is handed off to an editorial team typically and assigned a chief editor, and then that editor is going to look for certain things like plot continuity, character development. And by plot continuity, we mean, like, you know, if you say she woke up in the morning and then all of a sudden you make a reference to it being dark out, well, that's improper continuity. So that's one of the things they look for. Character development, in other words, if you start referring to someone as Jane, but then later you refer to her as Joan, that's improper character development. And then the normal things that you would think of: proper spelling, proper grammar. There's a particular manual called the Chicago Manual of Style, and that's the sort of unwritten Bible of the editing process for publications. It tells you exactly the rules of grammar and parentheses and punctuations that you would need to properly edit a book. And it's a long, tough process, and most writers are often offended by it because they send us something that looks pretty clean and, in their opinion, is perfection, but we explain to them, look, this is going to come back with a lot of red marks on it. Don't be offended. And, it'll come back with 300 red marks on 2 pages, and they say, oh my God, it was much worse than I thought. And we say, no, it's fine. That's what we're here for. We're here to edit the work. And just because we drew a big red line around a misplaced comma and we put a note in the margin doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the book. It means we caught something that we're here to catch. So that's, in essence, that's the editing process.
So do you have a relationship, like, can you call the editor and say, hi, let's talk about my characters that I created, or is it basically through mail?
Oh, no, the authors communicate with the editors daily almost. What happens is the editor will do a first edit, send it to the author, and say, look, here's what I suggest be fixed. And typically, if the editor is suggesting it, it really should be fixed. But the author always has the ability to say, no, I disagree with that. Now, you'd be silly to do that because this is a trained professional who's giving you, like you wouldn't disagree with your doctor. But the author has the ability to disagree with certain edit changes, sure.
People get too wordy. They put in too much information, so you help me cut it down.
Yeah, we don't help you develop characters because that's your task as the author, and that's the one thing that we don't want to meddle with is the actual essence of the story. So it's often a hard process because, for instance, idioms and street language are used in a lot of books. If a book is an urban, gritty tale, there are going to be words in there and grammar and things that actually aren't technically proper, but we'd be mistaken if we fix those things because that would take away from the essence of the story. So it's a fine line. It's a fine line. When do you fix something that's idiomatic? When do you fix something that's street language? And sometimes books aren't linear. Some of your best writers are sort of bizarre in their writing style, like almost Kafkaesque. You couldn't have taken a Kafka work and fixed it to be linear or have normal character development because it wasn't meant to. Then it would be almost eviscerating the original purpose of the work. So it's a fine line, but it's a dance and a compromise back and forth between the author and the editor.
And Stephen, I got to tell you, we got an interesting mix of dances tonight. It seems every week we get like a theme going, and this week it's a spiritual one. We've got a couple of authors that want to share their spiritual experiences. We're also going to hear from a mom so filled with love from her kids that she had to write about it, and a woman so tired of hearing about other people's kids, she wrote a book about how cats are better than kids. I'm not kidding you. But first, we have a woman who could not fight the voices in her head, who wanted her to tell a story about vampires. So you're Carol Shaunessey, and you wrote?
I'm part of the Sanctuary series called The Learning.
So you have a whole series of books that you wrote?
Well, I am writing them. I got way ahead in writing when I couldn't find a publisher. The stories kept coming, and I kept writing, and now we're trying to go through and catch them all up to get them out there to everybody else to read.
It sounds like you were giving birth.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like the words
Really?
they just came, they just kept coming.
Yeah, you just sit down and go. Like, this one came to me when I was mowing the grass, and the man just kept talking and talking and talking until finally I just shut the mower off and come in the house and sat down on the computer. I was like, okay, you want this story to be heard so bad, start talking. I'll start typing.
So somebody was actually talking to you, like in your head you heard a voice and it was telling you to type.
Exactly.
Whoa. How many books are we talking about?
I am up to 15 with some little short stories that explain some of the characters that my readers, the voices are telling me it's time to go to 16.
The voices are telling you it's time to go to 16.
Yep, they're ready for their story to be heard.
All right, so what's this about?
Well, Sanctuary, we grow up and we go through and only in later years find out things that mom maybe should have told us or dad should have told us or this kind of thing. And Sanctuary was dumped on a gentleman who did not know that he was a vampire. And because that happened to him in his 40s, to keep the paranormal races secret, he just went through and set up a sanctuary. So it's like, okay, this is not the governing, but this is also a place where we can go and get over these, oh my goodness, what in the world is happening to my life right now situations until you can get your feet up under you. The way it was done on him was suddenly you find out you're a vampire and you must go through and take care of these people.
Is a paranormal force driving you, do you think?
Probably. Coming from a superstitious background, my mother was raised in the hill country of Tennessee and Kentucky, West Virginia, and there's a lot of Appalachian beliefs that she carried with her that are a part of my life, and that just kind of makes the window a little more open for me that I'm not so tunnel vision, this is the way it is. There are other worlds that touch ours that you can accept and live with, and it's fun.
Is this the first of the set?
This is the 5th of the set. But, yeah, they're all standalone. This is number 5. The first 4 were through ebook publishing only. And then I came upon Page and jumped in with both feet. And I have absolutely loved dealing with Page Publishing to go through and get these out. They're really knowledgeable. They're really quick with an answer to a question. They've been really, really good, guiding me along because previous to this, there wasn't much guidance. So I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about editing. I learned a lot because they just didn't edit. It's like, oh, you got a book? It looks pretty. We'll put it out. And I was real happy. Don't get me wrong. I was thrilled my